Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. S.P. Sood, retired Associate Professor and Head, Department of Library and Information Science, University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. Today we are going to talk on module Corporate Authorship in CCC and AACR 2R conference under paper Knowledge Organization Structure Cataloging. If one goes through the columns of newspapers, he will find the news of holding of many conferences, seminars, symposia, congresses, workshops, institutes, summits, conventions, colloquiums, meetings, etc. at the local, regional, national or international level. The proceedings, minutes, reports, resolutions, agenda, recommendations, etc. of conferences and the papers submitted to these conferences are very important sources of information, as the information contained in these is not easily available in any other form or reading material. Objectives of the module are as follows: to define conference, to discuss the rules of choice of heading, to discuss the rendering of headings of various types of conferences. Definition of conference. S.R. Ranganathan has defined a conference in his CCC under rule number FC24 as follows. Sense 1. Ad hoc assembly for deliberation or formulation and expression of opinion or sentiments. First, not convened by a government and made up by solely of its own personnel or as a constituted assembly to form a sovereign state, or an institution and made up solely of its own personnel or as a constituent assembly to form as institution, or more than one government jointly confined solely to their own personnel, or more than one institution jointly confined solely to their members. Second, convened and conducted by a number of persons and or corporate bodies spontaneously to consider matters of common interest, or a body with no function or existence beyond the conferences convened and held by it, or a body with only the convening and holding of conferences at intervals as its primary function. Ranganathan further defines organ conference under CCC Rule number FC241 as follows. Any category of assembly excluded from the definition of conference in section FC24, it is an organ of the corporate bodies convening it. In AACR2, we find two definitions of conference in its glossary. They are: first, a meeting of individuals or representatives of various bodies for the purpose of discussing and acting on topics of common interest. A meeting of representatives of a corporate body that constitutes its legislative or governing body. Dr. Ranganathan has given two definitions of conference, that is negative definition in sense 1 and positive definition in sense 2. As far as the first definition of ACR 2R is concerned, it refers to the concept of a conference similar to that as given in CCC. However, CCC does not treat a conference convened by a government or institution and made up by solely of its own personnel or members to form a sovereign state, or an institution as a conference, but AACR 2R in its second definition treats such conferences also as conference. Rules for choice of heading. Generally, readers demand a document either by its subject or title or author. Subject and title approaches of the readers are well served preparing edit entries, for example, specific subject, class index entries, and title entries. But in order to satisfy the author approach in the case of conference proceedings, one faces a great problem. In case the name of the conference as well as the name of a person appears on the title page of the book, the cataloger has to decide whether the heading should be made under the name of a conference or the person. CCC resolves the conflict of authorship as per its rule number GC5. A conference is deemed author only if its agenda, minutes, resolutions, report of proceedings, and similar collective created thought. But a collection of learned papers or memoranda presented by person or persons or corporate body or bodies at the conference is deemed to have the respective person or persons or body or bodies as authors. Theoretically, the provision of CCC to enter papers under editor / compiler is correct, since a conference cannot be deemed to be the author of the papers presented in the conference. However, in practice, it is found that many of the conference publish their proceedings along with the papers presented at the conference. Therefore, the rules do not offer a satisfactory solution to the cataloging of such publications. According to Ms. Navlani, the approach of readers in asking for the papers of a conference is usually from the name of the conference and not from the name of the editor, etc. In this regard, AACR 2R rule number 21.1b2 within bracket D prescribes to enter a work under the corporate body if it falls into one or more of the following categories. Those that report the collective activity of a conference, proceedings, collective papers, etc., provided the conference dot is prominently named in the item being catalogued. As such, the rules provided by AACR 2R is more helpful as compared to CCC because both the entries for the collection of papers as well as proceedings can be found under the same heading in the catalog, while according to CCC they are scattered. Rules of rendering of heading of conference. CCC recognizes two types of conferences. First is periodic and second is non-periodic. Now we'll study the first type of conference, that is periodical conference. Periodical conferences are those conferences which are held periodically or at a regular interval. According to CCC rule number PV123, the periodical conferences are to be catalogued according to the rules for periodical publication. As per rule number JE2, the place and year prescribed as addition for a conference heading are to be omitted from the heading of a conference proceedings published periodically. This means that the proceedings of a periodical conference will have a consolidated main entry with a generic title as main heading and the name of the conference or sponsor as the subheading. The number, the year and place, book number and accession number will be given in a tabular form in holdings in full section on a continued card. For example, as in CCC, periodical conferences are treated as periodicals they are catalogued as per rules of periodical. In CCC, main entry of periodical has following 7 sections. First is leading section, second is heading section, third is periodicity section, fourth is series notes if any, fifth is holdings in brief section, sixth is tracing, seventh is holding in full section. Out of the 7 sections, first 5 sections are recorded on the front side of the main entry. Sixth section, tracing, is given on the back of main entry card, and the 7th section, that is holdings in full section, on the front side of the continuous card. In the title page shown in the module, there are, first section is leading section. In leading section, only the class number is given, hence the class number of the periodical conference is recorded in pencil. Second section is heading section. In this example, title of the conference followed by sponsoring body is recorded. Third section is periodicity section. As the periodicity of the conference is 1 volume per year, it is recorded, and volume 1 was brought out in 1933, it is recorded. In fifth section, there is no fourth section in this problem. The fifth section is holdings in brief section. In this section, whatever titles are procured by the library, they are recorded. So it is mentioned this library has B1-55 semicolon 1933-87. So first 5 sections are recorded on the front side of the card, and the tracing is given on the back of the card. In tracing section, all the entries prepared for this periodical conference, they are recorded in their order of preparation. Holdings in full section is recorded on the continuous card, on the front of side of the continuous card. Continuous card will have the same class number in the leading section to be given in pencil as it was given in main entry, and the term continued is to be noted on the leading line on right hand side. All the available volumes of the conference are recorded in a tabular form in this card. For example, first conference was held in 1933. It was held at Calcutta. The book number of this conference is N33. Accession number is 2123, and so on. And this information is recorded on the fresh card on the front side. Second type of conference, that is non-periodic conference. CCC divides the non-periodical conferences which are not held at regular intervals under the following 4 types. First, those with a specific name. Second, diplomatic conferences. Third, those without a specific name. Fourth, organ conferences. AACR 2R does not distinguish between a periodical and non-periodical conference. There is a common treatment for both the types of such conference publications. Rendering of conference with specific name. CCC Rule number JE1 to JE177 prescribes the rendering of a conference with a specific name under it, and if the name occurs in a variety of forms, the entry will be made in a uniformized form. In rendering the name of the conference, initial articles or honorific words will be omitted. If the name of a conference occurs in 2 or more languages, the name in the language occurring earliest in the scale of language of the library is to be used for rendering. CCC Rule number JE1. According to Rule number JE2, the name of the place of conference and its year in which the conference was held are to be added as individualizing elements. For example, Religion International Conference of 1933, S within brackets Varanasi within bracket 1964. AACR 2R rule number 24.3F prescribes that if the variant form of a conference name appearing in the chief source of information include a form that includes name or abbreviation of the name of a body associated with the meeting, use this form. For example, FAO hybrid maze meeting. Rule number 24.3F2 prescribes that if a conference has both a specific name of its own and a more general name as one of a series of conferences, use the specific name. Symposium on Protein Metabolism, Nutrition Symposium, Symposium on Endocrines and Nutrition. AACR2R rule number 24.7a prescribes to omit the words that denotes the number, frequency or year from the name of the conference, and rule number 24.7b1 prescribes to enter a conference under its name and to add the number of the conference, year and place in which it was held. Consequently, the 17th All India Library Conference held at Indore in 1968 will be entered as All India Library Conference within brackets 17th 1968 Indore. AACR2R rule number 24.7b to 24.7b3 and 24.7b4 are further expansion of the rule number 24.7b1. Rule number 24.7b2 prescribes to add the abbreviations of the ordinal number in English if a conference is one of a series of numbered meetings of the same name. However, if the numbering is irregular, it prescribes to omit it from the heading. AACR2 rule number 24.7b3 prescribes to be add the year or years in which the conference was held. For example, Conference on Machinability within bracket 2nd 1985 place name. However, to distinguish between two or more meetings held in the same year, it prescribes to add the specific dates. For example, International Symposium on Crossbreeding within bracket 1st 1987 February 3 to 5 Paris. International Symposium on Crossbreeding 2nd 1987 December 20-23 Paris. AACR 2R rule number 24.7b4 prescribes to add the name of the local place or other location in which the conference was held. For example, Conference on Astrophysics within bracket 2nd 1985 Bangalore. If the name of the institution at which the conference was held provides better identification, it is preferred as compared to the place. For example, University Libraries Conference within bracket 1966 University of Rajasthan. If the heading is for a series of conferences, this rule prescribes not to add the location unless they were all held in the same place. For example, Hybrid Corn Industry Research Conference within bracket 1st 1970. If the location is a part of the name of conference, it is not to be repeated. For example, Paris Symposium on Radio Astronomy within bracket 1958. If the sessions of a conference were held at two places, both the names are to be added. For example, World Peace Conference within bracket 1st 1949 Paris and Prague. Conference on Learning Process for Mentally Retarded Children, within bracket second, colon 1985, colon Institute of Education Delhi and Regional College of Education Ajmer. If the sessions of a conference were held in 3 or more places, the first named place is only added, followed by etc. For example, World History Conference, within bracket second, colon 1949, colon Delhi, etc. Comments. CCC believes in consistency of heading, whereas in AACR, 2R mixed conceptions are there. In addition to place name, it prescribes the use of the name of institution where the conference was held. Some readers may find this prescription more useful for identification and individualization of the conference. However, this prescription will give rise to some inconsistency in categories, inconsistency in catalog. AACR 2's prescription of the exact date in case two conferences with the same name were held at one place is a good provision, but CCC lacks such provision. These are ad hoc assemblies held with some diplomatic mission and comprise of the representatives of countries or nations joining that diplomatic mission or cause. According to CCC Rule Number JE3, the name of the place of a diplomatic conference is to be prefixed to the name of the conference, not held periodically, so as to form a word group if it is not already in the name of the conference, and year of the conference is to be used as individualizing element. For example, Vienna, within bracket Congress, within second bracket 1914-15. Paris, within bracket Peace Conference, within second bracket 1919. AACR2R believes more in the conventional name of the conference. AACR2R Rule Number 24.3c prescribes that if a body is frequently identified by a conventional form of name in reference sources in its own language, use this conventional name. However, AACR2R footnote number 8 prescribes that to establish a heading for a diplomatic conference that has no formal name and has yet not acquired a conventional name, use the name found most commonly in periodical articles and newspaper accounts in English. If later another name becomes established, change the heading to that name. As such, AACR2R rules are inconsistent and self-contradictory and violates the canon of permanence. As most of the diplomatic conferences are known after the name of the place, CCC approach is in conformity with the canon of recall value and canon of prepotency. Rendering of conference without a specific name. Such a conference does not bear a specific name and generally comprises of a group of persons meeting together to discuss some common cause or common problem. For example, political sufferers, textile workers, Indian residents, citizens, lawyers, etc. According to CCC Rule Number JE4, the rendering would consist of the name of the class of persons meeting together. According to Rule Number JE42, name of place, year, month and date of the conference will be used as individualizing element. For example, Indian migrants, within bracket New York, within second bracket 1966. Hindi poets, within bracket Delhi, within second bracket 1970. Now we will be taking a problem of conference without a specific name. The title of the book is The Distribution of National Income, Proceedings of a Conference held by the International Economic Association, conference held at Palermo in September 1964. The above is an example of conference without a specific name. Its heading, according to CCC, will be Economist within bracket Palermo within second bracket 1964. According to AACR 2R, there is no conference heading for the above title. As per Rule 21.c, such work will be entered under the title if it emanates from a corporate body but does not fall in one or more of the categories given in Rule number 21.1b2. Then, rendering of organ conference. If a conference is an organ of another corporate body like government or institution or joint bodies, according to rule number JE5 of CCC, the heading will be a multiple heading. The first heading would be the name of the corporate body or bodies. According to C.G. Vishwanathan, a conference, meeting, etc., implying subordination to a higher body normally be entered as a subheading under the name of the body to which it is attached. The name of the conference along with its individualizing element would be added to it as subheading. For example, Rajasthan, principals, within bracket conference, within second bracket Ajmer, within third bracket 1973. Madhya Pradesh, collectors meet, within bracket Indore, within bracket 1981. AACR, second R, rule number 24.13 prescribes more or less equivalent treatment. Enter a subordinate body as a subheading of the name of the body to which it is subordinate if its name belongs to one or more of the following types. Type 3, International Labour Organization, European Regional Conference, within bracket, second, 1968, Geneva. Type 5, Labour Party, within bracket, Great Britain, conference, within bracket, 71st, Blackpool. In CCC, the rendering of the organ of a conference will be made just like the rendering of an organ of the government or institution. That is, the name of the conference will be the heading and the name of the organ of the conference will be the subheading. For example, Religion International Conference, Varanasi 1964, Reception Committee. Child Health and Protection, White House Conference on within bracket Washington, within second bracket 1929, School Child, within bracket Committee on the, within bracket 1929, again within bracket Chairman underline Thomas D. Wood. In AACR 2, rule number 24.13 prescribes to enter a subordinate body as a subheading of the name of the body to which it is subordinate. However, we do not find any example of rendering of an organ of a conference under this rule. However, on the basis of the rule, we can render the above heading as follows. International Religion Conference, within bracket 1964, Varanasi, Reception Committee. White House Conference on Child Health and Protection, within bracket 1929, Washington, bracket 1, Committee on School Child. So, students, let us summarize what we have learned in this module. The above comparison of the rules of CCC and AACR 2R reveals that Both the codes have many common concepts. As usual, Dr. Ranganathan has given the rules in a systematic way. The rules pertaining to periodical conferences, conferences with a specific name, and diplomatic conferences are logical and easy to follow. However, the rule for the construction of heading for a conference without a specific name is a violation of the canon associated canons enunciated by Dr. Ranganathan himself. The heading is not based on the information provided on the title page of the book. Hence, it violates the canon of ascertainability. The readers are likely to search either under the title or under the sponsor, but not under such an artificially constructed heading. Therefore, it violates the canon of short heading. Many rules of AACR to are helpful. The order prescribed by AACR2 for addition to this conference headings, that is number, year, place name, is the order most helpful order because this sequence permits the numbered conference to be arranged sequentially and unnumbered conferences chronologically. However, the addition of place name and alternatively the name of the institution is bound to create inconsistency in the catalog.